we've spent the last decade, 2 decades probably, being told that we should be using the latest marketing toys, technologies to build laser-targeted campaigns that are going to drive prospects down through your funnel and convert. And I think somewhere along the way we've forgotten that the role of marketing isn't to get people to do what they don't want to do. It's to make it easy for our prospects to buy from us when they're ready.
Most marketers are still following old playbooks written decades ago. The rules have changed, but the advice hasn't. Flipping the playbook is your license to rebel. This is your front row seat to finding out how leading CMOs are tearing up the old rules and building strategies that move the needle. If you're tired of being told this is how it's done, let's flip the playbook together. Here's your host, Reza Mayandin.
Welcome to the show. I'm Reza Mayandin. Today, my guest is Alun Davies. As a fractional CMO, Alun works with a range of clients who are all generally high-growth tech software companies. He takes businesses that have grown organically and supports them move on to the bigger brand building side of things. Generally, they tend to be VC funded or private equity houses fund them. Now, welcome to the show, Alun. Why did you decide to become a fractional CMO?
Hi, Reza. Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be your inaugural guest on your podcast. It's a privilege. So really looking forward to the chat. So I've spent the last couple of decades or longer leading marketing functions, building go-to-market strategies for small, medium-sized businesses, mainly in B2B technology, software and SaaS. Going back to the beginning, my first leadership role was with a Silicon Valley software company in the late 90s. I can remember using version 1 of Google Ads in 2001, I think it was, being blown away by the auction concept, which of course is
I
now.
remember that those days, the flash ads that we used to create, all sorts of different things.
I know, and the principle's still the same. The interface is, at its core, it's still the same interface. You're putting in a bid to rank for a search term, and genius move, obviously a genius move. Anyway, here we are, 24 years later. Since then, I've worked in agency. Had a spell with one of your competitors, Search Laboratory, a few years with them as their global marketing director. And by the way, marketing an agency is one of the toughest gigs. Differentiating is really, really tough because ultimately it boils down to the quality of the people you've got
100%.
in-house. And that's not something you can tell people about, you have to show people about. So actually thinking about your rolling out this podcast series, I think that's a great move, Reza, because building personal brand for the key people within the agency, I think that's a great way to go with positioning. And it's something that the bigger agencies have been doing very well for a long time. People like Rory Sutherland and others. That's why people go to those agencies, because they become familiar with the thought leadership coming from key people within the agency. So thumbs up for that as a strategy, as a marketing strategy.
Thank you.
So I also spent a few years as a partner in a business development and strategy consultancy. And more recently, I spent a 4-year stint as fractional CMO for a technology company based here in Leeds called Bidnamic, which has got a machine learning automated marketing platform. So these days I'm based in Leeds. I work as a fractional CMO and growth specialist, I have chosen to be a fractional. I used to call it part-time, but now fractional, because it gives me the opportunity to work with different clients, usually not more than 2 or 3, and I love learning. I love learning about different markets. I love learning about how different businesses tick. They've all got different cultures. They've all got different challenges, different opportunities. And in my grand old age, is something I really, really enjoy, is just learning how to solve different problems. And that, of course, that's a whole new field now that we've got AI sort of kicking
Yes.
in. I'm sure we'll talk about that in time as well.
And why do clients come to you, Alan?
Um, so they typically come to me because they've had the founder or chief executive who's been leading the marketing function, and they've got to the point where they realize that either they don't have the time, or that they don't have the experience and expertise to take the company to the next level. Um, and they'll come to me as a fractional because either they don't need a full-time CMO, because we're very, very expensive, uh, or they don't have the budget for it.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
using a fractional for 1, 2, 3 days a week can obviously save you an awful lot
Yeah, of
on
course.
having a full-timer, but you still have the experience that I bring to the table from 20, 25 years plus.
No, I appreciate that. Which leads me on to the next question. So they bring you on, and then what are the things that usually you get confronted with when you start working with a new client?
It's different with every client, but one of the challenges is that, particularly if it's been a founder or CEO-led marketing function, they're the founders or CEOs, they often have a high level of marketing expertise, and they've already built their own vision of what the right marketing strategy looks like. Um, and they will have the best understanding of the market from talking to prospects, talking to clients, partners, influencers. They'll have the best understanding of the market and where the company fits within the market, of anyone within the company. However, what often happens is, assumptions that have been made behind those go-to-market concepts, ideas that have come out of the CEO or the founder, assumptions become facts. So one of the things I have to do, one of the things I bring to the table is, I'll try and surface the assumptions behind the go-to-market model, and define them, and help put strategies in place to either mitigate the risk that comes along with those assumptions, or put plans in place to test them and validate them. So that's often a challenge. With earlier stage businesses, sometimes it's easier because you're starting from scratch and you're building what for me would be the perfect platform to deliver the goals of the business. If I'm coming in at a slightly later stage where they've already made some investments in people, processes, technologies, sometimes when I start to build out the new strategy, they aren't the right people, processes, technologies, and then there's a process to go through to tweak, retrain, reassign, change, in order to get the right things in place to deliver the growth goals of the business.
Okay, all right, okay. And what do you think the key value of strategic marketing that often founders miss? So, you've said they've got amazing, knowledge of the market, but what is it that generally they miss?
So the things that they miss is often the the unknown unknowns. Um, um, it's the experience in working out the big questions and really drilling into them and defining the whys. So starting with what field should you be playing on? And I'm sure these aren't new questions for any business founder, but to go through the process of revalidating that and drilling into that, what field are you playing out? Who are you competing against? How are you going to beat the competition? How do you build razor-sharp positioning and messaging that's going to highlight your differentiators? And then drilling even further into that, everyone knows how to go through the process of defining your ICP, your ideal client profile.
Okay.
What normally happens is you get an ideal client profile, which is anyone in this industry, this geography, this business type and size should want to buy my product because it's a great product. That's not your ICP. That's your total addressable market. So within that, what are the traits of the companies that are more likely to be predisposed to buying your product, your solution? And it will be a subset. And then within that, who are the people within the business the personas that you're targeting? What are the day-to-day issues, the challenges that they are faced with, that allow you to build a set of messages and propositions that are really going to engage with them emotionally? And it's not your product feature set. It's not we have this great gizmo that does that. It's something around their issues, their problems, and how you solve their issues, their problems. So I'll give you a good example, actually. I'm currently working with a startup business called Debt to Collect, Debt number 2 Collect, which is a startup commercial debt recovery platform. So it automates the process of getting your clients to pay up by using a third party to send out, not threatening messages, but just messages, letters that let your clients know that you've got to the point where you're having to escalate it to a different level. So we've automated that process, and we're just rolling out a SaaS version of that. But thinking about the target audience for that, so many businesses, yourself probably included, Reza, every month you'll sit down at the end of the month and you'll look at how much outstanding invoices you've got, what's the impact on paying bills, etc. And it's recurring. Every board meeting, the same problem. It doesn't get any better.
Of course. I mean, that means your TAM is basically every single business in the whole country, but that's not the reality, right?
It's not the reality. The reality is we want to be targeting the business owners who are so fed up of seeing that every month. They don't know what to do about it. They've tried to put things in place to address it. They're committing internal resource to doing it, and it's not working. It's not improving things. So how can you improve that with an automated solution that's not too expensive, which ours isn't, because we have a very simple, straightforward solution that sends out letters from a third party. It's easy to implement, which our solution again is. You can set it up and run it within 5 minutes. And has a good track record of increasing the engagement with your debtors. So having that in place to speak to the chief exec business owner who's just so fed up of having this recurring problem. So that's one part of the jigsaw. The other part of the jigsaw is then that founder, that chief exec, that business owner says to their finance leads, just sort this out, will you? Find me a solution. Don't spend too much money. It's got to be something you can do quickly. Go away and sort that out. So the other personas that we're targeting are the people who've been charged with finding a solution that's not too big and bulky, doesn't take weeks or months to set up and integrate with your finance systems. So it's speaking directly to the people who've been given the responsibility to find a easy to use, affordable fix. It's speaking directly to them. So understanding the mindsets of the audience or audiences that you want to target and the emotions that they have around the challenge, and being able to engage with them in a way that makes them choose you as opposed to doing nothing, which is often the
Of course.
solution, or choosing a competitor. Drilling into that level of understanding is something that very few companies do and do well. because once you have that level of understanding of your target audience, you can go away and do some audience research. So where do people with these problems, these job titles in these industries, where do they hang out? What podcasts do they listen to? What websites do they visit? What events do they go to? What are the questions that they ask if they're trying to research a solution to this particular problem? What would they type into ChatGPT if they're trying to identify solution providers? You can start to build a detailed profile of the specific personas that you're targeting, and you can use that audience research. There's tools that I use. Well, you can use LLMs to do that. If you use pretty accurate prompts and ask the LLM to adopt that persona, you get some good feedback from that process. But there's other tools like Spark Toro is a audience research tool. Not sure if you've come across
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I have. He used to own Moz back in the days, didn't he?
That's right, Rand Fishkin. Yeah. We
Yeah,
remember him from back in
yeah.
the early days of SEO. Yeah.
Now, talking about Rand Fishkin and the joys of Moz, how he grew, and the funding processes that they tend to go as businesses. This is a very interesting part of the whole funding side of business. Why does funding, when that money lands in your bank account, what kind of pressure does it create? Because that's a very different environment, because you work with VC backed businesses and PE backed businesses. What kind of pressure does it create for quick results?
Um, yeah, that's a great question, and you're obviously referencing the fact that Rand Fishkin has written about his challenge, well, awful experience from his
Yeah.
perspective of getting
Mhm.
investment in Moz, and how, from his perspective, it ruined the business.
Yes, indeed.
Um, so I work with funders. Um, I've worked with VCs who've invited me into companies that they've invested in to provide some strategic oversight. On the positive, I speak to funders who, when they're doing their due diligence, one of the things they look for is brand trust and brand awareness. You know, is there a moat around the business which will protect them from competition? So that's, as a marketer, that's what you want to hear. You want to hear that there's a focus not just on short-term results, but building longer-term brand equity, because that's how you build better short-term results. The more people know and trust your brand, the better results you're going to get from your search marketing campaigns, from your SEO, from advertising on social media platforms. They're more likely to click on your adverts and convert if they already know you and they already trust you. The flip side of that is sitting in board meetings and maybe growth or profit goals haven't been met, and there's a representative on the board, often with an accountancy background, not always, but who will say, right, we need to fix this problem. We've not hit growth goals, we've not hit profit goals. We need to review our spend, and we need to cut the things that aren't going to contribute to solving this issue in the short term. And the perspective is spending on brand marketing, in inverted commas, because it's a long-term brand building goal. Let's cut that for now. Let's just focus on the performance stuff. Let's just focus on paid
Quick.
media, and strip it back to a bare minimum. And there is logic in that, but it's flawed logic, because for any company, particularly B2B companies, 95% of their audience isn't in the market to buy there and then. So if you strip back your marketing to just try and focus on the people who are ready to buy now, so this spills into ABM, account-based marketing type approaches where you laser target the people. Let's just spend money on laser targeting the people who want to buy right now, and we can use
Mm.
intent signals to identify them, and we'll capture them and close them. We won't waste money targeting people who aren't ready to buy. The flaw in that is the 95% of your market who aren't ready to buy won't become aware of you, won't come to trust you, and when they are in market to buy, 75% of them will already have a short list that they want to engage with, and you won't be on it.
No, it's true. True, that's true. I mean, in my experience, generally it takes in the agency where it takes all around 2 to 3 years for someone to trust you. That's baseline experience, and 10 seconds and 15 seconds of a PPC click or a YouTube ad ain't gonna cut that. Which brings me on to the next question. How do you go about balancing the immediate performance needs with the long-term brand building? How do you go around that?
So most early stage businesses aren't in the financial position to invest heavily in brand building. So when you look at the research out there, and there's a lot of really good, deep quality academic research that evidences the benefits of investing in brand. Most of the companies I work with don't have the sort of budget to invest at the level that a lot of these studies recommend. So when you look at people like Procter and Gamble, or the big tech companies, they're putting 40, 50, 60% or more of their budget into long-term brand building campaigns rather than buy now demand campaigns, conversion campaigns. So it's not an option for a startup to invest at that level when you've only got a budget of a few £1,000s a month. Where do you put that? And what I always try and do is to build a culture of dedicating initially a small percentage of your budget to always on brand building, non-conversion, brand building awareness campaigns, even if it's only 500 a grand a month. If you get the messaging right, if you get the creative right, and it resonates with your target audience, and you just have that as an always on drip, drip, drip in the background, raising awareness with the 95% of your audience who aren't yet ready to buy. When they are ready, they're more likely to respond positively to your conversion campaigns. So
I
building that
love that.
discipline into budgeting is an important thing to start doing from day one.
It's really fascinating how you brought that out because you've said, about grand worth of brand building. That's often brand building is like let's spend millions, right? But it's fascinating how you've said let's put a really really small percentage. Like, what is the one thing you would do? Like the one thing you would do for that 1 grand?
I would build on the research, the audience research, to identify where your audience hang out. I would invest as much as you can afford into getting a great creative, director level creative to come in and generate some messaging and images that speak emotionally to the needs of that audience, and roll that out into the channels where they hang out. So
Okay.
usually, so we talk about top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. Top of funnel is hey, we're here, we understand this market, these challenges, these issues. When you so thinking about if you're rolling out a campaign on social media, for example, the goal is to stop the scroll. So creatively, what can you put into your ad? Creative copy. So when they're scrolling through all the shit that we see every day, scrolling through our social media feeds, even if they just stop for a couple of seconds to go, oh yeah, that resonates. Carry on. I'm not buying it. It's finding ways to show up repeatedly over a long period of time. And you can do that for a fairly small budget. If you know who your audience is, and if you really understand their needs, their pain points, the stuff that annoys them every day, then you can put content in front of them, you can copy in front of them that resonates with them. But
That's great advice. Honestly, that's really great advice. Now, I want to take this away from this part of it to something you mentioned earlier, AI. And especially pre-recording this, we were talking about, and you were like, "Oh, there's loads of things that are happening in the world of AI." Now, what is the opportunity of AI in your opinion when it comes to marketing?
I use AI myself pretty much every day. I've built a custom GPT by feeding it my years and years of content and materials that I've generated. I've fed that into it, and it's given itself a name. It's called itself Growth Board Advisor, which I love. I couldn't have come up with a better name myself. And the responses I get from it are usually better quality and more relevant than I could generate myself. So I use it for research. I use it for market research. I've got a prompt library that I use. I mentioned earlier, a prompt library that I use to test propositions, to do competitor research, to validate market positioning statements. I use it to test hypotheses faster. I use it to prep for meetings, draft proposals. There's a wide range of things that I use it to. That saves me a lot of time, and any marketer will save any marketer a lot of time. I've even used it to try and help me with technical challenges that are way beyond my ken. Like recently, I was working with a client on fixing a consent to tracking issue, which
Oh, no, those are complicated problems. Every country has got a different thing. Every state in US has got a whole different story. Oh, I know. I can feel your pain here.
it's a difficult one, but I used my custom GPT to give me a list of potential tests to do to debug the problem, and it helped debug it. It was, technically it was way above my knowledge level. I've tried drafting visual assets, but with limited success. So I've tried to build branded slide decks, for example. I haven't worked out how to do it well. I know people say it can be done, but I haven't yet worked it out. And I'd say my AI prompting skills are, maybe middling. I wouldn't say I was an expert, but I'm certainly not a beginner. So I know it can be done, but I haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are definitely challenges with the visual side of it, and it's improving. But there are challenges there. But let's talk about things that can pay off today in the next quarter, assuming. Let's say, what are the things we could do that can pay off as a marketeer, as a CMO, that can pay off now for the next quarter, but it's not going to harm the brand in the next 6 months when using AI? What are those things, do you think?
Well, drafting content is the obvious one. I think some of the vibe coding platforms like Lovable is one that I've used. I've seen people use that to draft a set of web pages, or to generate a web app to deploy on your website. So something that an agency might look at would be, if I make this change to my business, what's the ROI going to be? What's the size of the opportunity if this is my market? And I can't. Actually, I'm not using a very good example here, but you get the picture. If your proposition is that you can improve certain metrics, then using something like Lovable to develop a web app that allows your prospects to put their details in and generate an estimated benefit of using your service.
Okay.
That's quick and easy to do. And if I built my own app a few weeks ago. It took me half a day. I've never written a line of code in my life, and half a day's work, 3 revisions, and I've got a beautifully branded, nice, clean-looking app that I use with my mates to calculate golf debts when we when we all get together and play golf. So yeah, it's a fairly simple example.
It is something though.
Half a day for a non-expert to build an app and deploy an app.
Yes.
It's an indicator. That's a direction that I think most marketing teams should be looking at for experimenting, for testing, for building new assets.
Perfect. Has there been any things that you've experienced about AI mistakes that can happen, and then what caused it, and then what are the guardrails can you put in to avoid them, in your experience?
So content-wise, you do need to proofread for mistakes. You can use secondary prompts to ask for the sources of research, for example. And one of the red flags for me is if the source of research is a vendor. I want to make sure that any recommendations, any insight that's coming from a research type query is from a reliable source. Not a secondary source, and certainly not from a biased source. So that's that's one of the guardrails you can put in place. You can actually, in your prompting, you can put promptings to say only use research from first-party sources and exclude research from competitors or vendors. So more advanced search techniques are a way to address that, but you still need to prove.
Okay, all right. No, that's really good, because I've actually never heard anyone saying make sure you go and find the sources from a first party. That's a fantastic advice there. No, that's great. Thank you very much. Now we're slowly getting towards the end of our conversation, and also when you're a fractional CMO, there is generally an end of an engagement. How would you create a smooth handover when it comes to being a fractional CMO?
I do tend to stay in my roles for a significant period of time, so years rather than months.
Yeah.
But it's almost inevitable in any senior marketing function that you'll get to the point where you don't think you can add any more value, and it's time to have a chat with the chief exec about some succession plan. I've been quite fortunate with the last couple of long-term roles that I've been in, because the succession plan was for my number 2 to step up. So these are people that I'd recruited and trained, who already have a great understanding of how the marketing function works. So during the handover period, I'd normally spend some time with them to help them move from a more of a campaign delivery role into a stakeholder management role. So if you're moving into a lead position, you don't just have to deliver the results. You've got to manage your stakeholders, your board, your chief exec, other function heads, sales, finance, CS, customer support. So you have to change the way and the amount of time that you spend communicating internally. That's a big part of being a leader as opposed to a deliverer. So that's worked really well, because I've been able to hand on to existing team members. If there isn't someone already in place, one of the bedrocks I tried to establish in any marketing function is, again, this two-way communication between other teams. It's a really important part of the marketing function, and I think they should play a lead in internal communications between different functions to ensure that there is that understanding and support of the strategy and consistency of messaging at every stage in the customer journey. So building that function and the protocols and processes to sustain that, and as part of that, integrating a culture of openness and transparency about how the marketing team make decisions on what to do.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Of course.
we seldom sit there drumming our fingers on the table saying, what should we do next? Has anyone got a good idea? But if you're communicating well, you will get good ideas coming in. You want
Yes.
that from your team. How do you then make a decision about, is this idea, is it well aligned with the goals of the business, the capacities of the team? And if it is, great. And if it is something that you want to integrate into your plans, what do you drop out? Or where do you find the additional resource in order to deliver it? So educating other members of particularly the leadership team to understand how you make that decision will reduce the risk of them scratching their heads saying, well, we've got all these great ideas and marketing's doing nothing. Or the
Yeah.
chief exec walking in, which occasionally happens, walking in on a Monday saying, I was talking to my daughter's best mate who's a marketer down in London last week. You said we should be doing this. Why aren't we doing this?
All right.
It makes the conversation a lot easier and more transparent about, well, we could do that. Is it aligned with our goals for the quarter? What would we drop if we're going to have to do this? So making those conversations transparent and easy is something I like to try and leave in place before leaving a client.
No, thank you. That's a great advice. And when you've left, what's the biggest mistake companies tend to make after a fractional CMO leaves?
Rebrand. New person comes in and there's a consensus. Right. Okay. What do we do? How do we make changes to get to the next step? Let's do a rebrand. Very rarely make a difference. Often have a negative impact. They divert resources away from the priority, which is usually how do we generate more leads, more revenue, more inbound sales, better resources to support the marketing function, the sales function rather. It all gets redirected into a rebrand, which seldom has a positive impact. It's for earlier stage businesses, the driving logic for a rebrand is seldom there, and the logic has to be a commercial logic. If we do this rebrand, it means we're going to be able to access new markets, or we'll get a better share of this market because it'll completely change our positioning.
Okay.
There's got to be a commercial rationale behind it, which is seldom there.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. That's one last piece there. And I have one last question for you. What's the one thing you would want anyone listening to this today to change about how they think about marketing?
If I could give one piece of advice to marketers right now, it's this. We've spent the last decade, 2 decades probably, being told that we should be using the latest marketing toys, technologies to build laser-targeted campaigns that are going to drive prospects down through your funnel and convert. And I think somewhere along the way we've forgotten that the role of marketing isn't to get people to do what they don't want to do. It's to make it easy for our prospects to buy from us when they're ready. So the biggest advantage any marketer can have right now, it's not AI, it's not budget. Budget always helps, but it's not budget. It's clarity about who you serve, why you matter to them, and clarity about how you're going to keep showing up in the right places until they're ready to say yes. That's the big thing.
Thank you so much, Alan. Alun Davies, fractional CMO. This has been absolutely fascinating. Thank you for flipping the playbook with us today.
Thank you, Reza.
You're very welcome. You can find Alan on LinkedIn. Details are in the show notes. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please forward it to your friends and colleagues. This is a new podcast, so we'd appreciate your help spreading the word. And if you've got any feedback, please send us an email. I'm Reza Mayindin, co-founder of SALT.agency. This has been Flipping the Playbook. Thank you for listening.
Flipping the Playbook is produced by SALT.agency. We don't just optimize for search and AI, we optimize for business growth across SEO content and digital PR. Check out our links in the show notes. Thanks for listening.